and we have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
Welcome to Gay USA. I'm Andy Hum.
I'm Ann Northrup.
And happy National LGBTQ Health Awareness Week next week. I don't think that
Hasn't that been canceled yet?
I don't think that the Trump administration will be issuing a proclamation.
Well,
and we are going to get to some good news, but the Trump assault on all things LGBTQ and women and race and all this is completely out of control.
But we do have, starting our list of good things, out Representative Becca Balint, a Democrat from Vermont, reads the riot act to Trump and her Republican colleagues from the well of the U.S. House.
Are you sitting down? In Montana, 3 anti-LGBTQ bills are killed with the help of some Republicans who were swayed by their LGBTQ colleagues.
Really an inspiring story. Demonstrations across the globe on International Women's Day, including 10,000 people who hit the streets in New York.
And then there's California Governor Gavin Newsom bonding with right-wing extremist Charlie Kirk over getting trans girls out of sports.
That Gavin Newsom. A Texas state employee forfeits his job rather than bow to the anti-LGBTQ crusade against identifying one's pronouns.
Attacks on gays in the military are back under Defense Secretary Hegseth.
He's got to do something. The National Park Service erased gay black leader Bayard Rustin, as well as Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera. They're gone.
Useless. And PBS dumps DEI, so public television is now Trump television.
I'm just waiting for him to put his name on the White House. What's taking him so long?
Well, he's already got the car dealership out front.
So true.
Which should be an impeachable offense.
Nothing is anymore. The Supreme Court will hear a case challenging state bans on conversion therapy for minors.
And anti-gay Kentucky clerk Kim Davis, remember her? Well, she lost yet another appeal.
But there she is, still in court. Terrible story from Buffalo, New York, where a gay activist couple has been murdered.
And terrible story from the National Institutes of Health, where they have yanked grants studying LGBTQ health issues, just in time for National LGBTQ Health Awareness Week.
Well, AIDS activists are not giving up. We told you last week about some of them being arrested in the Capitol. More of them got arrested this week, protesting cuts in HIV and AIDS funding abroad.
And Cher is standing with us. She popped in at God's Love We Deliver.
Only sorry I wasn't there. And Tony Award-winning Julie Halston lauds a gay cable couple. Let's see if you can guess who they are.
I wonder who that could be. All right, so where do we start?
We start with Becca Balint of Vermont. She is a representative, freshman rep in the House of Representatives.
No, she's second term.
Oh, okay. Well, she's terrific. She's a Democrat in the House of Representatives from Vermont, out lesbian, and she got just as sick as everyone else of what's going on with Trump and everybody these days. And she got up in the House well and made this speech.
Speaker, I ask you, what kind of man asks for absolute fealty and bootlicking from the people around him? What kind of man asks people to lie for him? What kind of man is so petty he can't admit obvious mistakes and lies? What kind of man mocks veterans, then callously fires them from jobs? What kind of man appeases and flatters our enemies? What kind of man puts his own needs above country? And what kind of men and women make excuses for him and lie for him and cover for him? These are the questions that are haunting me today. We need so much better than this in this moment. This is about the safety and security of our nation and our allies around the world. This is about our collective protection of our ideals. Americans of conscience, we must stand together and confront any man so wholly unsuited for what we ask of him. I yield back.
Wow. And that's the kind of tone I wish everybody would be taking right now.
Well, I love the fact that she used the term bootlicking. That's my favorite. But, a lot of people are speaking up, but I have to say that I think there is an overrepresentation among people speaking up of LGBTQ politicians and representatives.
Because, as we will get into on this show,
Yep.
we are the scapegoats. And, obviously on the basis of race, on the basis of sex, on the basis of even disability, all those things. But their number one quarry, the thing they want to attack, is LGBTQ.
And we've had a lot of experience of that over the years in our families, our friends, our places of employment, our
The
schools.
Salem witch trials.
So I'm not entirely surprised, but I am extremely proud of Becca Balint and her colleagues who are getting up and speaking with no holds barred. And by the way, I think Al Green was fine shaking his cane at Trump.
And I'm disgusted with, the Democrats who voted to censure him, like Tom
Terrible.
Suozzi and Laura Gillen out on Long Island.
Terrible.
I gave you money, Laura. I'm sorry.
Don't admit to that.
My God, I admit it
Yeah.
because I wanted a Democratic majority in the House, and I still do. But, you're losing your base when you go along with the Republicans. And now we're going to talk about some Republicans who didn't go along with their party in Montana. In Montana, they tabled a resolution seeking to delegitimize marriage equality, and that prevented it from moving forward there. And then they had these anti-trans bills, which were so egregious. One of them was like, if if parents have a trans child, it has to be taken away from them. And so Zoe Zephyr and S.J. Howell, who Zoe is trans and S.J. Howell is non-binary, they're members of the legislature. They worked with their colleagues. They managed to get enough Republicans to vote against these horrible bills.
I just want to do a minute on the background of Zoe, who you remember from a year or two ago was expelled from the House floor, not allowed to be on it, even though she was elected representative, because she had said to her colleagues who were voting badly on various bills, I hope when you bow your head to pray that you see the blood on your hands.
Yes.
And they said, out of here. And she went and sat on a bench outside the House chamber for a long time. And she has come back into the chamber now. She has not given an inch. She has not given up. She has worked to convince her colleagues that what they were doing was wrong. She gave eloquent speeches on the floor and turned them around.
But to give you some hope, the bill that Zoe spoke against was this anti-drag bill. And Republican Representative Sherry Essman said, trust the parents to do what's right and stop these crazy bills that are a waste of time. They're a waste of energy. We should be working on property tax relief and not doing this sort of business on the floor of this House. So some of them are getting fed up in some of the parts of the country with the crazies.
But part of it is because Zoe, I believe in people doing everything, demonstrating inside, outside, yelling, convincing, writing, whatever. But she hung in there and really talked them into this.
She said it is painful, grueling work, but it makes a difference.
Clearly.
Now, there's a tendency to want to despair in these times, but she's hanging in there.
She is.
And she said courage can be contagious, and it may lead to more Republicans standing up on these bills. And you might as well know there are 696 bills across the country in 49 states. What state doesn't have them? That could negatively impact LGBTQ people.
One of the most egregious, just introduced in Texas, the Gender Identity Fraud Act. If you, as a trans person, apply for a change in your gender marker on your driver's license, your passport, your birth certificate, whatever, you are guilty of a criminal offense.
Well, this gets to like what happened to Sarah McBride in a House hearing this week when the chair, a guy named Self, a Republican, goes, Mr. McBride, you can speak now. And so she says, Madam Chair, to him. And then a Democratic representative says, will you stop misgendering her? This is an outrage. Have you no decency?
In support of McBride.
In support
yes.
of McBride. And so Self just stopped the meeting. He ran away because he's a coward. But then he posted and said, there are only two genders. Didn't you read the law, that Trump laid down? I mean, that's all I'm doing.
Yes.
I'm just following the law.
I had to call her Mr. McBride. That's what my president has ordered.
Of course, the simple way to get around this, you scumbag, is just to say the member from Delaware. That's
Yes.
all you have to do, instead of disrupting every meeting with your hate.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. And then, look at Trump posted an image on Truth Social about eradicating gays from the military.
Speaking of hate.
Just unbelievable.
It showed like the body of a soldier in uniform, and then where the head should be, there's the pink triangle with the cancel circle and line through it, the red.
And Trump was promoting this.
Yeah.
But on a better note, we had International Women's Day march across the world, and we had a big one in New York, 10,000 people. Wow, it was a huge demonstration. I mean, so many people are coming out for almost anything because they just want to do something, and it is good to get out. It's good exercise, and it's good to be among people of like mind, and it makes you feel better.
And the weather's getting better.
We did it in the freezing cold.
Yes, we did, but now that it's warmer, it's even more pleasant.
And then at the Kennedy Center, drag artists organized a rally outside the Kennedy Center to protest Trump's hostile takeover. And there was also a huge March for Science rally in D.C. this weekend. Imagine that, science.
Well, back to the Kennedy Center for a second. The cast of Hamilton was supposed to be at the Kennedy Center later this year, and they have canceled their performances because of disgust at what's going on there. Like
putting Maria Bartiromo and Laura Ingraham on the board of that center.
Even Ann Coulter, though, I think is disgusted with some of this. Where did I write that down?
Yes, she did. She's had it.
Okay.
All right, let's talk about Gavin Newsom.
Okay.
He had his Sister Soldier moment. Do you kids remember what that was?
Probably not.
It was Bill Clinton going after Sister Soldier and saying, her music and everything is really divisive and racist and all this kind of stuff.
Black activist,
and it's
performer.
To show, I'll stand up to them.
Yeah.
And so this is what it's been known as. And Gavin Newsom has started a podcast. And who's his first guest? Charlie Kirk. Where did he get Charlie Kirk as a guest? Kimberly Guilfoyle, his right-wing ex-wife, arranged Charlie Kirk, this racist Nazi, to be his first guest. And, and then they bonded over, let's get trans girls out of school. I have girls. I have little girls. I don't want them playing against these, these people who are born male.
It's deeply unfair to women athletes.
This is how he's running his campaign for president in 28?
Yes, this is what he thinks is going to win. Quick, brief explanation. According to the NCAA, there are only 10 trans female athletes in college sports.
Not anymore.
Now, none. But the real answer is, if you have any question about someone's appropriateness, you have standards, you have tests. You say you have to have been on hormones for this long, or you have to be tested for this, or whatever.
Every sport has its own standards.
It does, or it has, and there's no reason for any of this to be a problem, and certainly not these blanket condemnations that are just bigotry and
As
stupidity.
Lori Lightfoot, the lesbian former mayor of Chicago, said, it's disgusting. There are kids waking up today in California with this news, thinking their governor hates them, and rightly so.
Exactly. Well, let's do a little more education news. I'm sorry. In the I'm trying to see where the basis of this was. There were, I think it's the people who were at Trump's congressional speech, or some of them, lied about, yes, one of the people there lied about the school hiding their child's gender transition from them. They knew that she was identifying as, they were identifying as non-binary. They had brought suit against the school in Leon County, Florida, and lost.
This was Peyton McNabb, and who was a high school athlete, and then the second one was a mom named January Littlejohn. And they both had phony stories, but they were the guests of Trump, anti-trans, in the that speech in Congress.
Totally phony stories.
Right. All right. I'm going to talk about my hero of the week, and I mean this. Well, there's so many, actually, because lots of people are standing up. But this guy's name is Frank Zamora, 31. He was fired from his job as a program manager at the Texas Real Estate Commission last month because he refused to comply with a mandate from the organization to remove gender pronouns from email signatures. And the wicked governor, Greg Abbott, celebrated his firing, as did Elon Musk, because they're so happy that people are losing their jobs over this. And Zamora wrote them and said, "It's clear that this latest directive is part of a broader effort to wipe out the acknowledgement of non-binary, intersex, and transgender people throughout Texas, as well as sending the societal message that these individuals are not accepted in this state." And he felt that he had to take a stand on behalf of LGBTQ people.
He's a straight ally who was using gender pronouns in his email signature.
Right. And whatever happened to free speech?
Oh, well, that could be this whole show right here.
Yeah.
Free speech is wiped out. Well, free speech, here, perhaps you can see a little, some of the words that are no longer kosher under the Trump regime. Let me read you some of these. These words are not to be used in government documents. Barrier. Where's the one I like?
Disabilities.
Disabilities, diverse, advocate, all-inclusive, at risk, belong. Belong is not supposed to be used in government documents. That's too fraught. Black, you can't use black. Black people are now invisible, don't exist. Identity is a bad word. Race is a bad word. Just the word race is now no longer allowed. Prostitute.
Well, we prefer sex worker.
We do. Maybe that's what they meant.
Because the prostitutes are all in the Republican Party.
Well, sex as a word is not allowed either. That's on the list. It's just...
I have a message.
The list.
We have a message. We will not be erased. We're going to, look, as long as they're going to, we're going to keep going, and you're going to keep going, and we are not going to let them erase us. And don't forget, we come out of an era where we were erased, where we didn't exist, where the New York Times wouldn't even mention us in the paper other than as perverts, New York Times. So we've lived through it, and we'll try to live through this one. Now, and then there's what's going on at the Pentagon in terms of getting rid of words.
Right.
And they really went after the word gay, and they ended up. And this was for images. They had to get all these images off the website. They went after thousands of images, and they got rid of an image of the Enola Gay, which, of course, if you're all you remember, was the name of the plane named after the pilot's mother that dropped the atom bomb on Hiroshima. And so that was eliminated. And a scene,
was her name, Enola Gay Tibbetts.
And a scene of black soldiers was taken down. We don't want to see black soldiers. I mean, come on. We want to see white warriors.
With swastikas on their arms.
Wow.
The National Park Service has...
they also eliminated a guy whose name was gay.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He's gone. He's off the website.
The National Park Service has canceled the names of Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera on any of their websites.
And they took down the National Register of Historic Places. You know, the Park Service has removed the nomination form for the Bayard Rustin residence. Bayard Rustin, who was his partner, still lives there at Penn South, Walter Nagel. Bayard Rustin, of course, the great civil rights hero who organized the March on Washington. They've removed pages about Gay Activist Alliance, Gay Liberation Front, all this kind of stuff.
They're erasing history. They're erasing people living today. They are erasing anything that is not them. Arts organizations are suing the National Endowment for the Arts because grant applications that they fill out now require that they promise no gender ideology in their applications, which means nothing trans to them. And
public television announced, we're getting rid of our DEI office. We're firing them. Oh, we're still going to be diverse. So I'm surprised they used the word.
They're going to have to erase it. It's not allowed anymore.
I'll be damned if I'd give any money to public television if they're retreating from us in this way. And we already told you last week, Channel 13 in New York took down gay educational videos that they were paid $600,000 to produce by the city of New York, and they took them down. Give the money back.
I have a piece of good news.
What?
The Department of Education, which soon will no longer exist, took down its snitch line for people to call in and report DEI in the schools.
Did we screw it up enough?
We screwed it up so much by calling and reporting non-existent things that they couldn't take it.
Okay. The Supreme Court is going to hear the case of Kaylee Childs. She's challenging the Colorado ban on conversion therapy for minors. Now, you know, she's represented by Alliance Defending Freedom, and the lower courts have rejected her case. And it's not even clear that the attorney for Colorado said it's not even clear the law applies to her because the practice she's described wanting to engage in isn't prohibited by the definition that they told because she's not trying to cure same-sex attractions or change sexual orientation. She's, so
it's just a way for the Alliance Defending Freedom to try to get to the Supreme Court with these questions and to re-legitimize conversion therapy. But as those who work on this issue have pointed out repeatedly, this whole thing about conversion therapy is that it is consumer fraud. It is malpractice to put yourself in business and say, I can change you. I can make you straight. I can make you cisgender. It's fraud. And that's why so many states have gone along with banning this kind of practice because it's not legitimate practice.
And the professional associations had banned it already.
Yes. All the professional associations, the American Psychological Association, the American Psychiatric Association, whatever, they have all condemned conversion therapy.
All right. University funding. You probably read this week that the Trump administration has canceled $400 million in federal grants to Columbia University because they say that they're anti-Semitic. That's their big thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, they don't worry about if a university wants to be anti-gay, anti-trans. Well, they like that. And of course, they're also going to go after you if you do DEI. You're also going to be defunded. And as with the case of Mahmoud Khalil, the pro-Palestinian guy who's been locked up in Louisiana, that's who they're going against, not all the people.
He was a spokesman for the pro-Palestinian demonstrators. This is in the middle of Gaza being bombed and tens of thousands of people in Gaza being killed.
And then they identify you as pro-Hamas and pro-terrorists, which they weren't.
No.
Again, we're not minimizing that some students on the campus of Columbia and other campuses who are Jewish felt threatened by some of this and perhaps harassed in some cases. And all this is not good.
Absolutely.
But that is not what they were doing. And
here's where Ann Coulter is on our side. She believes that Khalil should not have been locked up, kidnapped.
It is one of the biggest threats, if not the biggest threat to the First Amendment in 50 years. Because as Trump said, This is just the beginning. This is like picking people up in the middle of the night, packing them off to Louisiana or wherever, and you don't have any rights anymore, and you're being thrown out of the country. And that's just, that's for people who are here. This guy had a green card. It could be anybody who's an immigrant, but it could also end up being us.
Of course. And why did they take him to Louisiana? Because they wanted that venue for a trial of him.
Sure.
They didn't want him tried here in the Northeast where he might have a reasonable jury or judge. So they took him to Louisiana trying to gin up a case there. The judge who heard the preliminary discussion of issues said, no, the case will take place here in New Jersey where it was first brought. So they're not going to get to do the case in Louisiana, although he's still stuck in the jail there for the moment.
And then there's U.S. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon, the wrestling executive. Mm-hmm. She's hosting a detransition awareness day at today as we speak.
Oh my
This
God.
is detransition day, by the way.
My
They're having a
God.
whole big thing, and she's having all the anti-trans people in for a meeting.
Isn't drag very big in pro wrestling?
Oh, God, yes. Trump signed an order to limit who gets public service student loan forgiveness, and they're going after people. They're saying, if you're engaged in some of these airy-fairy things, we're not going to recognize that as public service. And okay.
Well, a couple of other little good things. I'm happy Katie Porter is running for governor of California because I think she's sort of a true blue, righteous person. I'm not sure she's a good enough speaker to
I've always enjoyed her presentations in Congress.
Yeah, me
they're
too.
quite pointed.
But look at her I'm going to run video, not quite as impressive.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
want to do anything to undermine her because I think she's great.
Well,
so I
we'll
hope
see what kind of mood people are in. I hope people are in mood for people who are really going to change things.
In Oklahoma, state education department and school districts have refused Ryan Walters' request for a lot of state money to buy Trump Bibles to put in all the public schools.
He's the school superintendent.
Yeah, he's a mess.
Trump's transportation chief has told
He's trying to raise money online for them.
You saw in D.C. they're removing the street mural for Black Lives Matter. And
tragic.
And Trump's transportation chief said that these murals are unsafe. And you're going to be hearing a lot about that, about like unsafe, rainbow crosswalks and things like that. They're unsafe and they have to be removed.
Well, they're fighting over rainbows in Salt Lake, Utah. They're trying to pass a bill that bans rainbow flags on public property, limiting what flags can be unfurled. Activists went to the state capitol and laid out a 200-foot-long rainbow flag.
Wow.
And the mayor of Salt Lake, because Salt Lake is this one little tiny...
It's more liberal than New York.
The mayor turned on rainbow lights on the city hall.
Great. Should do it on the Capitol as well.
Yeah. I told you last week that one of our viewers in Texas had come up with a way to avoid some of the State Department's ban on trans people having their gender identity markers correct on their passports. Well, now we have this bill that is trying to wipe out that possibility. But in Houston on March 31st from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Montrose Center, they're having a Trans Day of Visibility rally. It would be nice if the powers that be in Texas paid attention to their constituents there who are trans.
In D.C., the interim U.S. attorney is this monster named Edward Martin. And he wrote to Georgetown Law School and he said, unless I approve of your curriculum, we will not hire any Georgetown graduates. And so the dean wrote right back and said, the First Amendment rights cannot be curtailed in this way, and I want assurances that our graduates will be evaluated fairly.
Dreamer.
Well, at least he's not taking it lying down. And this is a Catholic school.
Yes. Rick Grinnell, Remember him?
Yes.
Evidently, everyone calls him ambassador now.
He's an out gay, another monster.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
He's the new head of the Kennedy Center and is
right.
instituting all that stuff. Well, in his spare
Unless he
time,
runs for governor of California.
Yes, in his spare time, go ahead. I want him to run for governor of California because he will lose.
Okay.
I know. Be careful what you ask for. Well, lately he has been working on getting Andrew and Tristan Tate out of Romania, the sex traffickers, rapists, misogynists.
Well, it's a wonderful story because it has caused, Governor DeSantis in Florida to say, we don't want these guys in our state. I mean, Trump, I kissed your ass entirely, and what did I get for it? Nothing but abuse. So now I'm going to stand up to you. Also, you're not supporting my wife for Senate. You're supporting the black guy. What's that about?
Is that Senate or governor?
Senate.
Okay.
Yeah, for the Senate. For this, I think it's governor.
I think it is too.
Yes.
But whatever. They're all creeps and they're all running for all those offices. Meanwhile, in Wyoming, the governor there has signed a bill allowing civil suits by anybody if they encounter a trans person in a restroom or are assigned to share a prison cell with them.
This is in what state?
Wyoming.
Oh, yes, the Wyoming case. And despite a federal judge's order blocking Trump from, in federal prisons from transferring transgender women to men's prisons, the Bureau's continuing the practice. And they're saying, that only applies to the 6 plaintiffs in the case. It doesn't apply to all these other people.
It's really shocking. They have started this whole thing of ignoring all court decisions they don't like. And someone is going to have to stand up to them pretty quickly, but it's going to be a real confrontation.
But here's a crazy story. We told you, we know that USID has been almost
AID.
USAID, did I not say that?
No.
Is almost entirely wiped out. I think they're keeping about 10% of it in the State Department, and they're zeroing it out. So Trump met with 35 people from all these Christian organizations that provide this relief, including Catholic and fundamentalist ones.
They're getting defunded.
We had said that he was going to keep funding Samaritan's Purse. I still don't know if specifically that's going to happen. But, the deputy administrator, Peter Marocco, said, USAID is a money laundering scheme.
Meanwhile, tuberculosis is already surging in Africa with the cutting of those funds, and there are HIV meds sitting in warehouses in Africa that cannot be distributed because they don't have the personnel to do it.
Now, let me explain how this might apply to you over here in the United States, because if diseases get out of control around the world, which we've been helping control, and we've also been monitoring, they're going to come here, and they're going to be incurable versions of it, that are mutated.
Well, here's what's going to make it even harder.
As with measles.
Yesterday, the whoever's in charge of USAID at the moment ordered all records burned and shredded. All USAID records burned and shredded.
Is anything on paper anymore other than what we do with this show?
Well, given the government, it could be. But I'm sure they'll wipe it out electronically, too. And that's what's going to happen at the Department of Education. The Department of Education is shut down for 2 days, and the thinking is, well, they must be shredding all the records, too.
All right. So, as we said at the top of the show, remember Kim Davis. She's the Rowan County, Kentucky clerk, refused to marry gay couples. She got hit with a big judgment against her. And now the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit, without dissent, and this includes a Bush judge, a Trump judge, said no, she could not raise the free exercise clause as a defense to liability. And so, but they're not quitting. This is the case that Alliance Defending Freedom wants to take to the Supreme Court.
Well, the judge said
to overturn Obergefell.
Yeah, she
Obergefell.
The judge said that she suffered no real harm, and that, get this, here's a novel thought, the Constitution trumps your conscience.
No.
Shocking.
Well, okay. All right.
I think we're down to
PBS, well, now that Amy Coney Barrett has, she voted to restore some of those funds, the MAGA crowd are after her. They want her dead. I mean, she's in danger from them for violence.
Yeah.
They are calling her a DEI hire. It never works out, is what they're writing on. She's a rattled law professor with her head up her rear. Mike Davis, a former law clerk to Neil Gorsuch, wrote. These are the kind of people we're talking about.
They're rabid. They're literally rabid. I think they are. They have contracted rabies somewhere. Did you say the NIH has canceled grants to projects studying trans?
Yes, I said it at the top of the show. Tell us more.
That's about it. Any grant that you have from the NIH, if it involves trans people at all, forget it. It's canceled. You're out.
Now, many New York Democrats who condemned Andrew Cuomo when he was accused of multiple incidents of sexual harassment as governor and had to resign are now silent as he enters the mayor's race for New York. This includes Governor Hochul, Senator Schumer and Gillibrand, House Leader Hakeem. They all wanted him out. But who is standing up for him?
Why am I presenting this support?
Keep going.
Out gay Richie Torres. He's endorsed Cuomo despite his bullying tactics.
Baltimore federal court has ordered Trump not to withhold funds from hospitals or doctors providing trans youth care. The administration is withholding it anyway. Families and doctors are asking the court to enforce the court order. This is where the rubber meets the road. And a Rhode Island federal judge has extended his order that Trump cannot freeze spending already committed by Congress. Trump is violating the order, says the court. And this is it. They're one step at a time. They're getting worse and worse.
All right. Can we go to these crime stories?
Yes.
All right. This is in Buffalo. Mickey Harmon and Jordan Soloto, a gay couple known for their art and activism, were killed there in their home, and a suspect has been charged with the murder. The guy who was arrested, 34-year-old Brian Mongi Chiclana, police said he didn't know the victims, and they don't believe it was bias motivated, but it's
robbery.
It's a tremendous loss. Harmon was the co-owner of the Good Stuff, an art gallery and gift shop in Buffalo. Soloto worked at the Remedy House Cafe and DJ'd at the bar 26 Allen, with Harmon always dancing nearby. They were just beloved figures, and they are gone.
The guy had tried to rob a number of other houses in the area, so robbery seems to be the assumed motive. In Las Vegas, a very popular porn star, Rowan Mercury, died suddenly at 45. No other explanation of what happened to him.
Right. He initially built his presence through fan site performances before expanding into more studio productions, and received a bunch of gay VN awards. Nominations this year for both group and scene performances.
Yeah.
All right. International news? Or you got some more?
No, hold on. I'm just doing a quick... a Veterans Affairs psychologist resigned, who was the Civilian Psychologist of the Year in Navy Psychology, Dr. Mary Brinkmeyer, because she was told she couldn't treat trans people.
Well, all right. Well, international news. We've told you about in England, they published something called the Cass Report, which cast all this doubt on trans youth care and gender-affirming care for trans youth. Well, now German, Swiss, and Austrian guidelines recommend trans youth care, and they slam the Cass review. And this is,
say they slammed it for its methodology and lack of experts involved in the study.
Right.
We've cast aspersions on this along the way, but this new report is 400 pages long and done by 26 medical and psychotherapeutic organizations. So it's considered quite authoritative.
Right.
In Germany, the Foreign Office is warning trans people about travel to the United States.
Well,
so
what's going to happen?
Are we.
People are asking us what's going to happen with World Pride because
Pride.
trans people are not going to be able to come in here in many cases. And so why, I mean, we've had it in some hot spots, Jerusalem, Rome, all these places, and this was not an issue of being allowed to travel.
And what's going to happen just to the people who are there in D.C. for World Pride? Are they going to have a political presence, or will they be allowed to be in the streets openly?
Is Trump going to come out with troops and his Bible and start waving it around?
Or say, I love trans people? Don't forget, he celebrated Black History Month in the White House while condemning black people everywhere.
He celebrated having trans contestants at his beauty pageant years ago. As you know, he's a horrible person and a hypocrite.
Well, the designer Valentino was celebrating trans people and the whole diverse rainbow at his fashion show in Paris during Fashion Week. He recreated a bathroom with as the runway for his show, people coming out of stalls, red lighting, very dramatic, but as a comment on these issues.
And one of the most prominent models was the 16-year-old trans daughter of Naomi Watts and Liev Schreiber, Kai Schreiber, at Paris's Fashion, made her debut there.
And this was raising questions of public versus private, gender issues, and the Valentino is the name on it, but there's a guy who was the actual designer of some of this, and he said he was proudly political in this show, which I thought was great.
We lost actor Simon Fisher Becker, who was an actor in Harry Potter and Doctor Who, died at the age of 63. His death was announced by his husband, Anthony Dugdale. No cause was given. A very versatile character actor.
And we also lost in Montreal, Canada, Antonine Maillet, 95 years old. She was the author of novels, short stories, and plays. Survived by her partner, Mercedes, not survived. Her partner, Mercedes Palomino, died in 2006. She was a theater director.
She was famous for giving voice to the overlooked French-speaking populations in Acadia. And she was into the fact that it was this sort of lost and in a way despised, displaced group. And she said, we Acadians, we were considered inferior beings. Sound familiar? And she stood up for that. But my God, they put her on a postage stamp in Canada. She was given the Prix Goncourt. She was inducted by France into the Légion d'honneur. I mean, the highest civilian honor. And so, wow, she was quite something.
Exactly. And good news from Japan, where yet another regional high court in Nagoya has ruled that the marriage ban, the same-sex marriage ban, is unconstitutional. So they're piling up these victories section by section, and at some point they reach critical mass and it goes to the actual Supreme Court of Japan for an overall ruling, which sounds imminent.
All right.
So in AIDS news, yes, the House committee hearing on USAID was interrupted by 11 activists who got themselves arrested outside because USAID has been decimated.
Yep. And as you said, what they're upset about is these PEPFAR funds in programs in Kenya and other African countries having suspended their services. It's an absolute catastrophe.
It is. Grindr has created tags for users' profiles to make everything a little more explicit. If you are a condom user, you can put that on your profile as information for prospective partners.
Are there any words that you're not allowed to use?
Well, the other one is doxypep.
Oh, yes.
Do you think they'll figure out what that is?
Those who need to know generally know.
Yes.
Doxypep is when you take a prophylaxis to avoid getting syphilis, gonorrhea, things like that.
And we're really sorry we missed the event of the week last week. Oh, man. At the Beacon Theater here in New York, a huge celebrity lineup.
For God's love we
for
deliver.
God's love we deliver. And to preview it, Cher showed up at God's Love We Deliver.
She did, and started chopping vegetables, but it included Alicia Keys, Beck, Kate Hudson, Bill Murray, and more at the Beacon there.
And Cher said, volunteering is one of the most gratifying things you can do.
She said, my mom said that if you see somebody who needs something, do it. You know, if someone crosses your path, anybody that crosses your path, what belongs to you comes to you. And my mom was very good at helping people. And we didn't really have anything, you know, but my mom said it was, and, you know, she passed that on to us.
She's the best, Cher. All right, also the best here in New York, Julie Halston, our friend, actress.
And we were very honored to be honored by the Jamal's Liberal Democratic Club a couple of weeks ago. We included the link to this in the last email. We didn't get a chance to, but we were really honored to have Julie Halston agree to introduce us.
It made going there worth the whole evening.
Got to sit next to Julie Halston the whole time.
Fantastic.
A theater legend, Tony winner.
So let's look at
her humanitarian work.
Show us a little of the beginning of her speech.
So why am I presenting this award? What am I doing here? Well, I started my theatrical career with the gay playwright and gender bender performer Charles Busch in a little show called Vampire Lesbians of Sodom, which became an enormous cult hit in the 1980s. I was neither a lesbian or a vampire, but my whole world changed when, in fact, I met many gay and lesbian people. And I saw how they were treated. I saw how marginalized they were. And when AIDS hit this city, I saw how cruel people can be. These were my friends, and I was watching them die. And they didn't die well. And I suddenly needed information about everything so that I could help my friends. And I watched Gay USA, and it helped. Andy Hum became rather a hero of mine. My world opened up to understand how the world works, who it affects, and how it affects. And then when Ann joined Andy in 1996, the show expanded even further with more information, more analysis, and more discussion about how people can directly impact themselves and their communities. How were these two, here were these two suburban kids, two suburban gay kids, wanting to change their lives and also the lives of others. It is not easy, as we know. It takes great fortitude to fight like hell for what you believe in. Fight like hell for people who are despised. Fight like hell with people who have self-esteem issues, no money, who live in fear because of who they are and who they love. It takes energy, commitment, and courage. Andy has never had a corporate job. He has always done public service. Ann told her mainstream bosses to their faces how intellectually bankrupt they were. Ann Northrup and Andy Hum have been serving the truth to us for decade after decade after decade. They deserve the respect of not only everyone in this room, but everyone in this city. I am honored to honor them.
Hey, that was so nice, Julie. We really appreciate it.
We love Julie.
And what she didn't say was that she once filled in for you on the show. One time, about 25 years ago, you had to be somewhere, and we got Julie Halston at the last minute. And of course, she's a performer, and she just was, was terrific.
Maybe we ought to keep bringing her in as the sub. All right. Well, it was really great.
And when Ann gets up to get her award, she did a little strip. Tell them.
I took my sweater off to reveal my Silence Equals Death t-shirt, which is now my regular shtick at any event like that. But what I also liked was, and what I really felt honored by, was the main honorees at that event were Governor J.D.B. Pritzker of Illinois.
Who is standing up to fascism.
And Representative Jasmine Crockett of Texas. Very exciting to get to chat with them for a minute.
Plus, we heard from Lorna Luft, who also sang and talked about her activism, and Anthony Rapp as well, who sang Seasons of Love.
And this
and
is
I posted all this on Facebook, and I'll give you the link again.
And all of this is produced by the Jim Owls creator and president, Alan Roscoff, a longtime friend of ours, who I love for his fearlessness. And the reason his club has become so successful is because he will speak truth to power. Yes. He's not trying to ingratiate himself.
Yeah, he talks about being very close to Governor Hochul in New York, but he says
who spoke at this event.
Yes, but he says we have very candid conversations. And when I think she's wrong, I tell her. I don't always win, but I tell her. That's the thing. You got to speak truth to power.
And that's why
And Alan's been doing it since like 1971.
1936. Yeah. But thank you to him. Thank you to everyone. Really thank you to Julie. It was a humbling night.
It was a fun evening too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now.
Let's go.
Oh.
All right. At a time when the world seems a lot scarier for LGBTQ youth, Elton John and Brandi Carlile are bringing a little hope to the table. They released this month "Swing for the Fences," their latest single, which is an upbeat track meant to inspire LGBTQ kids to dream big, and we will link to it in our email.
And if you want some more pop culture inspiration, the new season of The Amazing Race has started on CBS. There are 2 LGBTQ couples. The Brett and Mark are married Las Vegas performers, and they're quite appealing. And Courtney and Jasmine are nurses from Leland, North Carolina, who are dating.
Okay.
They're cute, too.
And we told you that a new series, comedy called Mid-Century Modern is coming to Hulu on March 28th. This is 3 friends living together, played by, in Palm Springs, Nathan Lane, Matt Bomer, and Arthur Broussard, and also with Nathan's mother, who is
Linda Lavin.
Who is now gone. So I'm really dying to see her performance because she's so wonderful, and we won't be able to see her again.
It's supposed to be, I remember when we announced this a few months ago that this was coming, and they were sort of pitching it as the gay male Golden Girls, and I wasn't too excited by that idea, but we'll see.
We'll find out on March 28th.
We haven't seen it. We'll watch it. We'll see if it's half as clever as the Golden Girls. Oh, and speaking of the World Pride festivities, Cynthia Erivo has been announced as headlining a big concert.
And this is late May, early June.
Yes.
If it comes off.
In D.C., yeah. We're watching eagerly, but we'll see. Now,
I would say anxiously.
Yes, that's often people say anxious when they mean eager,
yes.
But in this case, anxious may be appropriate. So season 3 of The Traitors wound up on Peacock, and they had 4 winners, and 2 of them are gay.
Wow.
This is the Alan Cumming sort of murder mystery competition show for fun. And the Ivan, what's his name, the British royal family, out gay.
Yes, Lord, whatever his name is.
Yeah, he was one of them. And the other one was Gabby Windy, who was on, wait a second, she came to prominence when she first appeared as a contestant on The Bachelor. Then she was named as the Bachelorette for the next series. And then she came out as a lesbian. And after The Traitors, she and her girlfriend eloped to Las Vegas to get married.
How do you have time as the Republic dissolves and you have to do this show every week to watch these things?
Well, as someone said to me recently, Anne, I've taken your advice to heart. You have to mix up your life. You can't do this stuff all day, every day.
I actually heard Paul Krugman yesterday. He was on with Andy Borowitz on a podcast, and I think I'll take it to heart. They said, "How are you coping, Paul? You know, great Nobel Prize-winning economist and leader," and he still writes, even though the Times got rid of him.
Yeah.
And he says, "You know, I have to write about the news. I have to listen to the news, but after dinner, no news. No news after dinner."
I don't make rules like that. I just try to mix it up. I watch a lot of news after dinner, but I also watch golf on the weekends.
Okay.
Well, how are Rosie O'Donnell and Ellen and Portia coping? They left the country.
Oh, right.
We had talked about Ellen and Portia moving to England. Well, Rosie O'Donnell has now moved to Ireland.
I would love to move to Ireland, but my ancestors, are much too far back.
Now, we haven't mentioned what's happened at MSNBC, where they're getting credit for putting 2 black gay men and a woman on the new Weekend
We're talking
show.
about the new Weekend show is going to be a panel, and it's going to be Jonathan Capehart of the Washington Post, and Eugene Daniels, also gay, and then Jackie
Alamany. Eugene Daniels
starting in April.
Eugene Daniels is the head of the White House Correspondents Association, or he has been until now. He's interesting. And they replaced the panel of Simone Sanders and Mike, Steele, and maybe one other, who have moved into the Joy Reid slot.
Right.
So they're just moving pieces on the chessboard.
All right.
You saw a play.
Paul Mescal and Patsy Ferran are playing at A Streetcar Named Desire at BAM. Now, Blanche Dubois is haunting that stage again. I had seen Cate Blanchett there, who was really the defining person in that role for me.
I saw Rosemary Harris at Lincoln Center long before Cate Blanchett.
This is a London import of Streetcar Named Desire, and it does boast the star power of Paul Mescal, big star now, who is indeed powerful, as Stanley, and Patsy Ferran, who was perhaps a bit too crazy as Blanche. I mean, Blanche is crazy. I mean, and we learn that in the play, but she's almost that way from the start. So this is not going to make me forget Cate Blanchett, but its emphasis on Stanley's anger, violence, and feeling slighted and cheated by having, Blanche there did kind of make me think of Trump a lot.
Exactly.
Which is what it's about.
All of them. Pete Hegseth.
And they do a lot in the play to really dramatize, which is not in the play, the gay husband that Blanche had when she was young. And that's kind of acted out in dance. But a footnote for BAM, the hearing devices that you use there are useless to me. I'm saying it on the air. They need to invest in modern technology. Take pity on the hearing impaired.
Oh, I'm sure that's on the list of banned words.
Hearing impaired?
Yes. Disability is, right?
Are they allowed to say deaf?
I don't know what they're allowed to say, but the hypocrisy is just reeking.
It's painful.
We're against censorship.
And we're glad that you tuned in to be with us.
We're against censorship, but
and
here's the list
us.
of words you can't use. Okay. Yes, thank you for watching. We're going to finish on time, and we will be back here next week. Thank you.